Welcome to the How to Heal podcast, the show where we explore real life stories and practical tools to thrive. I'm your host, Lindsay Trimarchi Richter, and through over a 15-year journey of all things healing, I'm here to hook it up. If you're feeling overwhelmed, looking for a deeper connection, or straight up in a psycho-spiritual crisis, I got you covered. Let's unearth your unique elixir to purpose, peace, and progress. Here we go. Welcome, my friends, to the How to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Trimarchi Richter. I am so excited to talk today about how to listen to your intuition. I was born into a sort of partridge family, so to speak, where my father was the eldest of 7 boys, and my mother was one of 6 girls. And it was a lot of energy. It was a lot of family dynamics, just a ton of energy around the holidays. And I talk about this because my grandmother on my father's side, once I was born, my father was the oldest of 7 boys, and I was the first child, and I was the first girl, and my grandmother was just my biggest cheerleader, totally eccentric, and told me from a very young age, Lindsay, I'm psychic, and you also are psychic. And my mother would be like, do not listen to your grandmother. She's, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And it was always, I never grew up, with this in a spiritual lens. Like I wasn't in high school. Yes, I was listening to Pure Moods. I mean, who wasn't? It was amazing. But I wasn't going to the crystal shops and reading tarot. I think the extent of my spirituality and witchiness was playing with a Ouija board. And, light as a feather, stiff as a board, like that kind of stuff. And that probably ended around the 6th grade. So I didn't really step into owning psychic abilities, owning my intuition, stepping into the ethereal world until I moved into Manhattan in 2006 or 2005. And my gateway to this was my grandmother, because when my grandmother passed away, she was the only close person I had that passed away to me at that time. And I just knew she was there. I had gotten into a really bad relationship, and I remember the TV like flashed on as I was going into this room, and it flashed on static. And I said, that's my grandmother. I knew it immediately. And that was sort of the step into acknowledging the knowing in my body that something was in fact what it was, and it was unseen. It was a feeling. There was no proof to it. And as I started to explore healing, even just my therapist at the time was like, you should see this woman. She's a healer. She's a psychic. I went to her. She was at the top of this Russian hair salon in the West Village. And she was like, your grandmother is here, and, she's wearing red, and her hair is like, sort of red wiry hair. And I said, that's her. And it took me a long time to really own my ability and feeling out energy in any given situation. I was always looking to healers, to psychics, to the Akasha, to tarot, to whatever it was, to get information, because candidly, like when I went to get this information, it was good information. It was like self-discovery. Luckily, I fell mostly into the hands of people who were on my side. And, getting those readings, there was no doubt that this information, this infinite source of information on the other side that was not seen, was in actuality there and real and true. And I that's what I did for a long time. I saw psychics, or I just had my tarot read. I saw different healers. I went on different retreats. I went on a soul adventure in Sedona. I saw shamanic astrologers and sound healing and journeying and shamans and all this different stuff. And I would just preface this by saying, when you go in to see a healer or some sort of intuitive, and the stakes are relatively low, by all means, like, go check it out. But when you're banking on information to make life decisions and stuff, that's when you really have to step back and say, okay, like, maybe it's time for me to listen to myself. Maybe it's time for me to actually do the work and not be scared of the answer that I got. Because I think for a long time, I was just scared of my own answers. I would read tarot in my apartment in the city in my 20s and be like, getting the tower or just a lot of swords and just being like, oh my God, life is so hard for me. Like, this future prediction landscape is not fortunate and it's not good vibes. And, I think we need to just be able to step away when the information is very divisive and start, again, getting back into our body, getting back into life, getting back into the real world. Recently, I really had to step away from a lot of the astrology and the tarot on Instagram that was coming up for me because it was just too overwhelming. Like, it was taking me away from my present moment, and it was making me future trip and thinking that, like, I'm looking for a sign. I'm looking for a sign on this. I'm looking for a sign on that. And it's like, actually what it's doing is robbing me of the time of the present moment to actually make the decisions, look at actually where I am right now, where I want to go, what I want to do, where I want to be, and then taking the present moment and, like, actually doing real things. It's like procrastinating. Looking at all this psychic stuff is really procrastinating what I'm trying to do to get to where I want to be. So I do want to just preface it by saying, number one, we don't want to distract ourselves from the present moment of what we know we need to do. And number two, we also want to empower ourselves to make decisions for ourselves and not looking to people that they know better. Because they may have some really juicy, fun, exciting, liberating information for you at the time of the reading. But that was the energy that you brought to the reading that hopefully they were working in integrity to give to you. So I want to tell you this funny story. So I went to Omega Institute a while back. I want to say, I don't even know how long it was. It was probably in 2015 for a workshop that was called something along the lines of getting in touch with your higher self. And I'm like, oh, great. I can actually get in touch with my spirit guide, like my higher self, my spirit, like my inner voice, my spirit guides. And what the workshop ended up being was actually a workshop on channeling. And it was, at the time, I was like, it was channeling the deceased. And I met this girl there who was living in Brooklyn at the time too. She was a therapist, and she went because she just started seeing her patients and their faces flipping different lives and right in front of her. And she was like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I'm not there yet. This workshop is a little intense for me. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be messing in this arena. But what ended up happening after that workshop was that I started to slowly integrate that information into my life. We moved into this house under like an estate sale of circumstances, and the previous owners had tragically passed away, and I was worried that there was some energy in the house that did not belong here. So the only person that I knew that I could reach out to was this woman who hosted this workshop at Omega. And I was like, so like, is my house haunted? And she's like, no, it's not. But in the process, what I learned was just owning the energy of how I felt in the house. So what I did was I took down all the, super mindfully, I took down all the curtains mindfully in my home. I smudged. I basically lit sage with respect, like letting it go. And I did it all gradually and all slowly to be respectful to this woman to this couple who had tragically passed away and left and left this beautiful house for us. But what then I ended up realizing was it wasn't just the previous owners, it was the owners before that. And then it was the owners of the land before that. And then it was actually the people that the land was taken away from before that. So there's a lot of different layers to spiritual identity and what that really means, and the lack of fear and honesty required to look into that energy. So when we talk about intuition, there are so many different layers of what we're talking about here. But for the purposes of this episode, I would really love to just talk about quick messages that you can download for yourself. So first of all, you always want to be clear about who you are asking and who you are talking to. So if you want to set the intention of, I really only channel from my higher self. So it's me, it's my soul, and all of the knowing from my soul is my higher self. Or you can say, no, actually I want to get information from angels. I want to get information from Archangel Michael. I want to get information from Archangel Metatron, whoever the archangel is that you want to get information from. Or you can say, no, I actually want information from my grandmother or my deceased beloved on the other side. So there are all different ways that you can get information. I would just warn you that when you are super open to receiving this information, that anyone can come in and give you the information that's burning on their chest. So we just have to be clear. I'm only welcoming in beings of the highest light in Christ consciousness, love, and benefit for me and those around me. I'm only working and communing with entities of the highest light. Because, like, let's be honest, demons are spiritual too, right? So not everyone in the spirit world is good. We're not all, it's not one big happy family. It's just everything that we see in this world felt. So when we listen to our intuition, there are numerous ways that it can come in. And I'm just going to talk about for me. For me, it's just, I know it. I know it. I feel it. I know it. It's just, that's it. Some people can see things. Some people can hear things. Some people can see the future. Some people can smell things. You know, there's all different ways of how to use your intuition. And the progression of my intuition and where it's going is that it really is a dance. It is a beautiful dance, because when you get close to yourself, when you learn how to get quiet, and when you know how to trust yourself and you have the confidence to say, this is in my highest good, I'm ready to receive this information. It is in my highest good. It's neutral. It's not like an emergency alarm ringing. The intuition will never come in and be like, you know, get out of it. It's just going to be a feeling of I need to do this, or I know this, or it's almost like a sensation that is easy to follow. And sometimes it's so easy to follow that we can miss it. So sometimes we'll get pings, like someone will come into our mind and you'll be like, oh, I have to email that person. And then it leaves. It's almost like a gentle prick. It's like, oh, there they are. And then depending on how close you are to your thoughts, you can either act on it or it can go away. And it's fine either way. It's totally fine either way. But the great thing about listening to our intuition is our ability to really start to dance with the unseen energies around us that are supporting us. So the best thing to know is always that when we are clear about who we are calling in and that it is in the highest good. Because I think where a lot of people get weirded out is like, oh, I don't want to have my tarot read because I'm going to get some bad information. But the way you read tarot or get any information is like, okay, here, this is where we are right now in the present moment. Let's dance with this energy and bring it to the next best step. What is the next best step to adjust this energy? Again, how to love yourself. We're literally looking at ourselves in the mirror for what we are, and we're being honest about where we are. We can't lie to ourselves. We have to hold the mirror up. And when you have perpetually lied to yourself over and over and over again, it can be scary to wake up one day and look in the mirror and be like, holy, what happened? Who am I? I think about that movie, The Substance. So I hope you're laughing with me if you saw it, because I was like thinking about it. I was just talking about it in one of my previous episodes and it was so gross. But that's somebody who literally has not looked at themselves in the mirror in an authentic way in a really, really long time. And it can get ugly. And guess what? The only way you're going to reverse it is if you accept for what you are right now, that you accept the decisions that you've made, and you accept what you have to do to rectify those decisions. I'm feeling called to just, for the purposes of this episode, to just pull a card at the deck. And I just want to clear any nervous energy that we have coming up, because I know it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, are there, and the first card, of course, that comes up is Guardian. So we always, when we set the intentions for I am protected, I am safe, I know best, we are protected. We have guardians on the other side. Call for them. Call for them. It's all good. It's all good. Where we get lost, where we get sideswiped, where we get manipulated is when we're in the unclear and we're looking to others who we think have the more information than we have, who have more power than we have, who have more just authority over our healing, over our own sovereignty. And we need to remember that we are always sovereign, and what makes us, what makes that stronger, what makes that more dependable, what makes that more reliable, what makes that steadfast is looking in the mirror, making the hard decisions, reconciling where you've been, what you've done, being honest about it, living in integrity, being in the present moment, and taking the next best step. That's what we need to do. We need to take the next best step. Oh my God. And ladies and gents, I pulled this on card. The reading is over. This is the most fortunate card in the deck. I'm so grateful for this journey that I've had that went against the grain, where my mom was like, don't do that. Don't buy into that. That's weird. And it's like, it scared me for a really long time. I remember the first time I even thought about spiritual principles was when my high school sweetheart was like, "Oh, you're a Gemini and I'm a Pisces. That someone said that's not good." And I'm like, "Okay, like now I have to deal with this shit." Like, you know, but we are always divinely protected. When we make the decision to open our eyes to look at the shadows, we must acknowledge the shadows to call in the light. So that's my lesson for today. Okay, honey, I love you. I'll see you next week.